Yes, in public law, we are aware this is the kind of stuff that we present in Constitutional Division and the Judicial Review Court to confirm whether or not it complies with the Constitution or statute. Therefore, when you publish such a gazette notice, an instruction manual that would be deployed during the verification exercise, and the following day is a public holiday, you cannot be taken to have been done that with the best of intentions. We go to stage 2, voting day. Voting day, the first violations that we talked about, not everybody entitled to vote under Article 138 in the presidential elections actually voted on account of non-compliance with the law by the IEBC. The second issue for purposes of that day, I've already talked about it, is a voters register. That on the elections day, and we have said 6 hours, you needed to know how many of us voted. The moment that information was not provided, the system and the process was exposed to anything could happen. And actually by the 15th of August, the worst, all that could go wrong actually went wrong on the 15th of August. And therefore, this is why we are saying these violations were not just minor violations. They were violations that indeed went into the heart of what is before this court, the disputed elections. At stage 3 is what we call the procedure under Article 138. Well, my constitutional law mentor, Dr. Gibson Kamau Kuria, always used to tell me, and I believe most of the people who had the privilege to be his pupils, that the Constitution must be understood in a historical context. And therefore it is important that we understand Article 138 in a historical context. What is this context? This context, my lords, is this, that we do not have an equivalent of Article 138. We do 6 elections. The Constitution has not told you this is a procedure at the parliamentary elections, or the governor, or anybody else. It is only reserved for one position, the president position. The procedure at the presidential elections. And this was to leave no room of doubt that this is how in which the verification process ought to be carried about. My lords, the process after we vote in a presidential elections, I first voted in 1992. And since that year, the first multi-party elections, after voting, of course in Kenya they tell you, vote, go home, watch it on television. You will get to know the outcome. How it has always worked is that you are there at home, results are read from constituencies, from everywhere else across the country. It is a ritual that happens every year as far as I can remember, since the year 1992. Now, what is the importance of this ritual? It is important to remember that in the year 2007, this ritual was disrupted by the events that happened at KICC. The disruptions of this ritual led to the post-elections violence, and the rest of it we are all aware what happened after that. So that it is not a simple ritual. And so that in the year 2010, when the Constitution was written, it provided for a sections and 7 days and a procedure, setting out in no uncertain terms, this is how after people vote for their president, we are going to process the issues. So that the Constitution having dealt with that issue against that historical background, you cannot have a situation where subversion through a gazette notice is tried to be effected. That would be treason in every sense of the word. I go to the issue of what's the importance of the ritual. To the winner of an election, this ritual that we saw in this constituency, what you got in my neighborhood, is very important. Because the people, while we are seeing all this being displayed, and remember that during Bomas, the display to show Kenyans that these are the results that were coming in, this is how the figures were adding up, that was disabled at some stage. So that what effectively this meant, that the true purpose of Article 138 ends up being defeated. Defeated in the sense that for the winner goes and declares that I had the most numbers in accordance to Chebukati. And the loser, everybody else says, I do not know how you got those numbers. I actually thought I had more than you had. This is what was tried to be prevented. But it is equally important, the procedure under Article 138 for the loser. Why is it important for the loser? Because the loser, and in this case the loser is a loser with say about 6.9 million votes, quite a number of Kenyans. This is a loser on his 5th time seeking the presidency. The last one he says he lost under controversial circumstances. There was everything necessary to ensure that for purposes of these elections, if you are to lose the election, the math must make sense. It must add up. The Kenyans, those people who voted for you, must also see that you did not do very well, because it is clear these people in that other place did not vote for you as you expected. Now, but when you have now a true situation on the 15th, the dramatic events of the 15th of August, where even 27th constituency, my clients are there waiting at home. I was also equally waiting at home. Those results are not announced. Then how do the people who are supposed to be losers understand that they genuinely lost in the elections? That would strip the process of legitimacy. But it is equally important for another reason that Wallace Soyinka talks about in one of his essays. And I believe the essay is published in a book called Climate of Fear. And Wallace Soyinka, in an essay titled The Quest for Human Dignity, says that in war, it is important that those who lose a war should not be stripped of their dignity. And basically what this means is this, that even after losing war, you are not stripped naked, in the sense that you are told you lost half of your country, but you must be left with the other half. That is if you are in the Russia-Ukrainian kind of situation. That is the whole idea, that nobody should lose absolutely. And when the Constitution talks about fairness, about transparency, it is to enable that this is processed in a manner that everybody else would be able to understand, and to process the victory or to process the loss, if it turns out that it was a loss. Now, we go to the issue number 4. I wish I could say more. I'm just trying to watch myself. Stage number 4, the final issue is the Supreme Court issue. We served Chebukati with our affidavit. And I would not say he's arrogant, because that may not be a permitted language. But the language that he used is one that shows lack of remorse. You will read the affidavit. On the issue of, why didn't you make arrangements for everybody to vote? We were talking about specific people, election officials. Then he says, oh, prisoners voted, diaspora's people voted, and all these other people voted. Now, that was not the issue. I think they are needed, and this is accountability to the Supreme Court. And that is the design of the Constitution. That now that a violation has been committed, what do you have to tell the court about it? You could not even say it was an oversight. The next one I will recommend to the next chair to ensure it is done. There was no such thing. Then we go to the next issue. In our affidavit, the third petitioner says, I was disturbed about the events of 15th, because in the morning of 15th at around 7:30 a.m., I was shown some text that seemed to show the results that now are being announced later. Why was it disturbed? Because at that time, votes were still being counted. People are being told in constituency A, this is what people got. How does Chebukati react to that? Oh, everybody with a good calculator could have downloaded these forms 34A and calculated. Now, Kenya is a country with extremely low digital literacy. To say, and when such a thing that would cause concern, that there was a problem, and you say this information was readily available, leaves a lot to be desired on the part of a public officer. I start with finishing with the issue of legitimacy. It is important that winners should have legitimacy. And it is also important that the losers also should be treated with dignity. When we read the affidavit of Honorable William Ruto, he says, oh, so many people, why are you pretending that you are acting for all Kenyans? So many people agree with my victory. But it is also equally true, so many other Kenyans don't agree with it. And therefore, in a constitutional democracy, as I conclude, it is absolutely important that when you win, and Article 38 says you win it this way, it must be confirmed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Council. We would like to take the submissions by, I think, 4 respondents who are supporting the petition. That is the 4 commissioners. According to the time schedule we allocated yesterday, they were to share the 1 hour. But before Council, you take the podium, we are proposing just a 15 minutes health break. Then we come back because we will hear those submissions. And if there are questions from the bench to all the submissions that have been made, they will be directed to Council. So we'll need about 1.5 hours when we return to finish today's proceedings.
Tire, on the word from Justice Lenola, could the court find out what's happening to the question of scrutiny? Because it looks like we still have a crisis.
Yes, we shall. I'm aware.
Yes.